Like we mentioned, we're going to be visually explaining web workers. So just to kind of give a little introduction of like what a web worker is. People, whenever you think of web workers, you might think of service workers. Service workers mean like progressive web apps where you can work offline. You can intercept requests that your app can make. You can do some caching and sending that request back. And it's built off of it runs in a separate thread, and it has a messaging system between your app and your service worker. Well, its sibling is the web worker. And the web worker is created very similar and has a very similar setup where you instantiate it in your code. It's a file that lives within your code, and you can talk to it, and it can talk to you. And a lot of this doesn't. It's not typically used for intercepting requests because it doesn't do that. That's a service worker that does that. There are three main different types of web workers. That's kind of getting the nitty gritty, but overall, it runs in a separate thread. You can talk to it. You can give it tasks to do, and then it'll respond back with results. And just to kind of give you a little idea for everyone in the chat, hey Will, how's it going? Thanks for coming.
Hey, Will.
Uh, just to kind of give you an idea, so I work at Auth0, and I actually just learned this last week. But for one of the things that the single spa application, the SDK for the single page apps does is it stores some of the auth credential and the tokens and whatever it uses to authenticate. And it uses web workers because web workers can only be accessed by the code that instantiates it or creates it. And so Auth0 actually utilizes web workers for the storing and the authenticating of transfer. Let me turn my sound up. Let's see. Okay, is that better? So it so Auth0 uses web workers to store some of that so that it can't be stolen from third-party scripts that are running in your browser. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so we're gonna try to design that today, and again, I'm following along.
Yeah, let's map that out. I'm already like, oh yeah, I want to like draw the map of this thing before I like lose track of what all those pieces were.
Yeah,
um, well, hopefully, if people in the chat might ask or not. So the screen you're seeing here, this is Procreate. So that's just it looks like this. It's an app for iPad. I think it's like $10 or something, £10.
yeah.
It's wonderful. It's the most amazing app. If you're going to get an iPad and draw things, get Procreate. That's my recommendation. And people always ask about brushes. So I was just showing Tyler before we started. So I have a lot of brushes that I never look at or touch, like all of these. There's like 4 up the top here that I use. And I couldn't remember where I got them from. They're like they could have come with Procreate. I could have found them online. I don't remember at this point. But I have one that's essentially a pencil. One that's essentially like an ink brush, and one that's more of like a black inking pen that I use for final line work. But we're going to start with the pencil, and I do everything in blue pencil because I was taught by animators, and there's like a long history in animation where people would draw in blue pencil first, and then some sort of photo technique where they like drain out the blue and they would do fine line work over the top, and you wouldn't be able to see the blue underneath it anymore. And so it's like a historical legacy. So you'll still draw in blue. It's strange.
Okay, so blue's the color to start with.
Yes, you gotta have it in blue or it won't work.
Okay, that sounds good. And we kind of talked about this a little bit on the off screen, but so what size should I start mine off with? The biggest I've got is 4K. Looks like.
Yes, so I'll go back up to gallery in Procreate. So when you make a new canvas in Procreate, you can make custom ones. I think this button here is, yes, you can make like a custom canvas if you click that little button.
Okay.
And I am sort of ridiculous with mine, where I like to have just an enormous number of pixels, like a number that will like stress out my iPad and really make it work. So I sometimes I just do like 5,000 pixel canvases.
Okay.
because then to me it just feels like an infinite piece of paper where I can just sketch different versions and copy paste bits and pieces and do different sketches without it. It's less of a canvas and it's more of this giant infinite play space.
Okay. So I've got 5,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels.
Mhm.
22. Okay. Create. I'm gonna call this web workers.
Oh, you're very good titling your files. You should see my entire Procreate is called untitled file.
So I'm gonna switch between Maggie's screen and my own screen here. So we're both starting off with just blank screens here. I'm gonna change my pencil to the blue.
Oh yeah, so yeah, Will said there's an echo going on. Is that still happening, or we all? It's still
Oh, is it still
echoing.
echoing for her? Okay, that's me.
Huh.
Let me see if I can fix that. It's not you. It's something to do with the audio. I might just switch to my headphones here in a minute, just so we can try that. All right, let's try that. Let's see if this works first. Do we still have an
See, it's
echo,
not a
Will?
stream. Oh yeah. See, it's not a stream without technical issues.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, well, I'm trying to do the sketching, so we're gonna see how it goes.
It's collab sketching for sure.
Huh.
um,
Let me grab my
Still
headphones and
echoing.
see if this works better.
Yeah.
That's what you get for live coding.
I know.
All right, give me a second here.
It's like a real conference. Yeah, exactly. See, we need an MC to make like bad jokes about the coffee while we all wait for the tech issues to get fixed.
Yeah, Will, it's definitely feels like a real conference, huh?
hmm I know we should start like handing out business cards, asking everyone, oh, how did you hear about the conference?
Yeah. All right, that sounds better? Okay. Better.
Yeah, am
Great,
I
thanks.
better? Oh, wonderful.
I think we're good.
Okay. Make some comments about the sponsors. Yeah, I know. Everyone remember to thank our sponsors. We have on silver level today, Chrome.
Great. All right.
Wonderful.
We're ready to go.
Okay, good. Okay, so we got
I've
set
got a
up with the
blue
canvas
pencil.
and a blue pencil. Wonderful. Okay, we're all doing really well. So now we're going to think through web workers. In your introduction, you said a couple key things I was thinking.
Okay.
So whenever we're defining or trying to draw a programming concept, we always define the nouns and verbs as sort of the starting point. So like what pieces of programming things are involved in this and what actions are they doing? So we've got the DOM, I assume, is involved in this.
Yeah, so like web workers, and they don't have access to the DOM because they run a different thread.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of
okay.
because it's running in a different thread, or it's like inside the browser, so you actually don't have access to the DOM. But kind of contradicting to that is you do have access to the IndexedDB or some like local storage. Maybe not local storage, but IndexedDB. There's one other thing I can't remember what it is, but so we don't have access to the DOM, but there are some APIs that you can still access in there.
Interesting. Okay, so the DOM is
You're already making
in
a
this
rectangle.
image somewhere. Yes.
Okay.
So even though the DOM is not the browser, I usually draw the DOM as the browser, which is misleading and terrible. But I mean, it's. I also have another pet theory how the DOM is more like if you imagine like a hologram and it's just like a bunch of like floating DOM nodes that are like boxes attached to one another. But I haven't really fleshed that one out yet. And it doesn't exactly say DOM in the way that a browser says DOM, so I don't tend to draw it that way. But it could be like a bunch of and nodes are either circles or cubes in my world.
We might get kicked out of our Zoom. I just got a weird notification. So if it does,
Really?
everyone stick around. Oh no, yeah, the meeting. It's not going to end in 10 minutes. Again, it's not a live stream without some errors going on here. Oof.
Should we keep going or pop in and out of the Zoom?
Yeah, once it closes, I'll just I'll
Oh,
send
okay,
you
that
another
works.
invite.
Okay, so this is the DOM. And this thing I've drawn on the side is like another theory of the DOM that we won't use this time around. Okay, so with the DOM, and a web worker is a file.
Yes.
Okay. So for the moment, it's going to be a box until we can figure out a better metaphor or way to represent it. But web worker, everything is a box with a label until said otherwise. So we're saying the web worker can't access the DOM, but
Right.
it can access certain APIs.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me pull it up here really quick so we can look at the thing. So it says, for example, you can't directly manipulate the DOM from inside a worker. Things that so stuff that lives in the window object, but there are a large number of items under window, including WebSockets. You can access IndexedDB. So yeah, so there are some things you can still access in web workers, just not. So I would do WebSockets and IndexedDB.
IndexedDB. Okay, wonderful. So those are two things. Okay. Interesting. And then, so the DOM is on one thread and web workers are on a different thread?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. I mean, I like the idea of threads. That to me, I always try to find some centralized metaphor to sort of structure everything around, and threads feel like our best bet here, as in like sewing threads.
Ooh.
So I'm thinking, so the web worker cannot access the DOM, but it can access WebSockets and IndexedDB. So let's do that. Nice big X there.
I just realized that I'm not doing blue. I thought I pushed blue, but it's not actually doing blue.
Oh no!
So
You're not going to be able to draw now. It's got to be in blue.
I'm
Well,
already
do you want
starting
to see a
off
trick
bad.
of how to turn it blue?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Maybe switch back to my screen for a sec because I'll show you, and then we'll see if you can. Okay. So if I have a layer here, and I want to change the color of the whole layer, all the lines on it.
Okay.
I'm putting two fingers onto this layer and swiping to the right, and so two fingers and swipe to the right, and then release.
Okay.
And it should suddenly look like it's got like a pixel background on the back because it's transparent.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now you've got that. Tap on the layer once with your pencil. Oh, actually, first change the color to the color you want in your color picker. So blue, black, red, whatever. And then click on the layer and hit fill layer. You see that option?
Let's try that again. Let's see. Okay, fill layer.
What?
I might be able to share my screen here, but
yeah, flip over to yours, and then that might be what that might be easier.
Okay. Well, you can see it in the Twitch stream right now, so that's what I'm seeing. Is that right?
Yes, that looks correct. Okay, so now click on your layers panel in the top right, so the two squares.
Okay.
Oh yeah, change your color to blue first in your color picker.
Oh, fill layer? Fill layer?
And then click fill layer.
Got it. Okay, it's blue.
Lovely. Okay, good. There we go. Yes, that's the magic of how you change your color layer. I know. It is very handy.
Okay, so I got blue. Web worker. I'm just drawing WebSocket.
And so right, so we're saying it can access the APIs, which are somehow part of the DOM, but then it can't access the rest of the DOM. So I'm thinking it can access like a section. I'm going to move the DOM out of the way.
I'm using the eraser because I did a bad. Let's see. Let's go back to that.
Oh.
Oh yeah, yours looks really pretty.
It's all right. It's mostly about the planning. Don't worry.
Okay, so we got threads. Draw my little arrows. This is kind of fun though, I will say that. Even though mine doesn't look halfway as good as yours.
That's totally fine. I think our Zoom is giving us the minute warning. Should we?
Yeah.
Looking good. Oh, we're back on track.
Yeah. Do we have any sponsors that want to sponsor this stream today? That would have been a perfect time.
Who's WebWorkers made by? Is there anyone who's going to make money off WebWorkers we could sell on this?
I don't know. Maybe Google Chrome or somebody else. Okay, look, we're back. All right, everyone. Cool. So that's Maggie so far. Hers is very pretty, and this is mine.
Can I show you some cool tricks of drawing neatly in Procreate? Because I know the whole thing of like drawing straight lines is like, I don't want people to think that just like comes. Like I've had to spend so many hours practicing drawing straight lines. Like I want to appreciate it's like not the easiest thing to do if you haven't like spent hours like making this motion.
Yes, please.
So Procreate has some wonderful, wonderful features for this. So they do have something called automatic shapes and automatic lines. So what I'm going to do is if I put my pencil on and draw a line and then hold the pencil down to the thing, it will create a straight line, and I can now move that line while I'm moving my pencil. And as soon as I release my pencil from the screen, it creates the line. So try that out.
Yes, I'm doing that right now. It looks great.
And you can also make shapes. So you can draw a really wonky square and hold it, and it'll turn it into a really neat square.
Wait, do that again? I missed it. I was busy with the straight line.
Oh, sorry. We'll go one at a time. So if you draw like a wonky square and then you hold your pencil to the screen, it'll turn it into a really neat square. What? And a menu bar will pop up at the top that says Edit Shape. So try that one out.
Wait, hold on. So you just do a square, and then where do I touch it at? Oh, I don't let go, right? You do a square, and then you stop.
And then you hold the pencil to the page for 2 seconds, and it'll automatically, so it's like you draw and hold, and it makes an automatic shape. And then do you see there's a bar that pops up at the top that says Edit Shape?
Let's see. I switched over so everyone can see me do it.
Try it out.
All right, so I got a square. I can make it grow. Yep, and I see a bar pop up at the top.
And if you tap that, it'll let you edit the shape. So it'll let you move the corners. Yeah, I know, right? So you don't have to worry about like drawing super straight boxes. You can just do it this way. It's a bit like a diagramming app. It's kind of wonderful.
Yeah.
You can do the same for circles. I don't know if it supports triangles. I'm going to find out. Yes, it does. You can make triangles. Circles, triangles, straight lines, and even if you do a curve, it'll straighten out the curve for you.
Nice. Oh, so if I do a little curve, it'll...
Or they call it an arc, but you can... Yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
Nice. Yeah, that is sweet. So, yeah, that's... to answer, Sam, your question, this is Procreate, $10, super cheap.
It's amazing. It does almost everything that Photoshop does, and Photoshop costs $20 a month.
Yeah.
Adobe.
Yeah, that's nice. So is there an easy way to like delete these things, or do I have to like manually erase them with the eraser?
Oh, for sure. So if you pop over to mine, I can show you a cool eraser trick.
Okay, we're over in yours.
Okay, so yeah, I've like done a bunch of messy stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's awful. I just don't want that anymore. So one thing I can do is I take 3 fingers and I tap on my screen. Oh, is it 2 fingers? It's 2 fingers. I don't know my
Okay.
shortcuts. 3 fingers is to put it back, and 2 fingers is to take it away. So I can undo and redo a whole series of things like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm doing it. Let me show my screen too. Yeah, so I'm just double tapping the screen, and it
So
gets
two
rid of everything.
fingers to undo
Yeah,
and
two.
3 fingers to redo.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Hmm.
That's so much nicer than having to like scribble because I was just doing the eraser scribble.
Yeah. Another way to do it is right. So you like scribble a bunch of messy stuff, and then there's a thing called the lasso tool, which I'm about to hit. So you hit this button, which is third from the left, and I can select an area of my canvas like this, and like create the loop. And then I'm gonna take 3 fingers and like do a scrubbing motion on my screen, and it'll get
Okay.
rid of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's like auto erase.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Mm-hmm. This is just a Procreate tool for everyone. But also,
Yeah.
yeah, Procreate doesn't. It has like all these wonderful intuitive functions, but you have to really go read the manual to like memorize them all, and then it's magical. But like if you just open up the app, there's nothing in it that tells you how
Yeah.
this all works.
Imagine you have to read the instructions to know how to make it work.
To do. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, I just jumped right in and started drawing
I was
without
fair
knowing anything.
enough. um, yeah, so those are all handy. So once you learn that you can do the nice, neat, automatic shapes, lines, circles, and then being able to undo and redo, it helps speed up the process a lot.
Yeah, that's super sweet. Cool. So we've got our web worker. It lives outside
Mm-hmm.
the DOM. It communicates back and forth. It's got an API that it can talk to.
Mm-hmm. Are
It
there
might be
any
interesting.
other characters in this scene?
Yeah, maybe something to do with like the way that it messages. So it uses a event listener. I don't know how we would draw that, but like
Okay.
that's how you talk to it is you have an event listener that talks
Is
to
the
each
event
other.
listener in
It's
your
in
JavaScript files?
yeah.
Ah. Oh, okay,
So
okay. Oh, we need to add
so
another layer in here. So this is me selecting actually here with the selection tool. And then I'm clicking my move tool. I'm just going to move that over to the side.
oh so you cut out just
Mm-hmm.
first I'm going to cut out my little.
Because
Oh
I've
wait.
realized we haven't drawn our actual JavaScript program into the middle here, which is like an important part of our little diagram.
After you've
Um,
lassoed it, how do you now move it? So I've
so
lassoed
if you
it.
lasso something and then hit the arrow pointer
The
at the
arrow
top
pointer.
right, or
Okay.
so the left hand menu and the top, and then you can move whatever you've
Oh,
lassoed around.
nice.
Hmm.
Okay, so move that one. I'm going to lasso this guy here.
So then, because I do this all the time, I'm constantly rearranging diagrams as I'm making them, to make sure I'm fitting everything in and it's all in the right place and makes sense.
Got it. Okay,
Because
I've
now
moved
this is
it.
making more sense. Oh, good. um, because now if our JavaScript file is in the middle, this is our JS. Um, and we have an event listener that
Yes.
talks to our web worker in the middle here. This is our event listener. See, for the RJS file, sorry, I'm saying R-O-U-R, RJS. I always want to call that like JS code or but I know people are like, it's not code, it's programming. I never know the difference between those two.
It's all the same.
RJS file. Would it be like an index.js file? Like what bit of your JavaScript app would you use to talk to a web worker in?
Yeah, so the actual code that's going to run in a web worker is its own file. It doesn't matter what the
Oh.
file's called. It could be like webworker.js, but it has to be a JavaScript file.
Hmm.
And and then when you recreate that new web worker, you give it the first param is the location to your file that's going to be running. So yeah, this looks
Hmm.
great. Yeah, so your web. So well, this box would be your app, right? So
Well,
the
I just called that webworker.js, but it would be I'm going to draw the app as a box around it
oh,
as the container
beautiful. I love that.
app.
Okay, so draw that around
App.
it.
Hmm.
Okay, so we got, let's see here. We got our app on the outside. Web worker JS. Ooh, what is that? A cool like cylinder.
Oh, so I was thinking I was trying to come up with some sort of like metaphor for the web worker or some visual that's because yeah, I start with boxes and then I go, okay, what can I turn this box into that's more interesting than a box? And so I was trying to think with web workers, it's like they are workhorses that are doing like behind the scenes,
Yeah.
not power work, right?
No,
And then
I think it's great. Yeah.
because it's on a separate thread, I had this idea of making it into some sort of like a spool of thread.
Nice.
So I don't know if this is the right metaphor, but it's the first one that I've come up with that I'm just gonna run with. So this is like this is a very loose drawing of a sewing. I don't know what these are called. Spool. That's the word. It's a
Yeah.
spool. Um, so I'm gonna say, oh God, that's not looking good. This is a spool of thread, and so I'm now gonna replace the web worker for the moment with this
Oh,
spool. Tap it out, knock it in. So, because then it could be something like I'm imagining it like spinning really fast and like running the calculations for you in the background.
I'm gonna try to cut out my little box and see how that goes. Okay, so cut out web worker. Oh man,
Mhm.
I'm worried about my drawing for
Oh, so
the spool.
I can give you a quick, okay, here's a tutorial on how to draw, right. So I usually say everything that you want to draw is a box or a cylinder or a
Ooh,
sphere. That's like our three classic shapes, right? Are like square,
love it.
triangle, shape. Um, Almost everything in the world is going to be a cylinder, and to do that, you draw like a squished circle. Like you just take a circle and you just like squish it down
Okay.
into an ellipse. And if you draw two of those, and then you draw a connecting line between them, it's suddenly a cylinder. So our spool of thread right here is just, and you can use those magical auto shapes to make it neater. So if you draw two little cylinders, and what I'm doing is I'm doing a little bit of like an indentation into them, and then drawing out,
Mm.
and then that's like kind of the spool of thread. He's building everything up from that basic cylinder shape.
Okay.
So yeah, you can draw a cylinder, and that'll make it easier than thinking through a spool of thread like that.
Yeah, that looks great. All right, so these are my two cylinders.
Hmm.
Yours already looks way better, but
Don't worry. This is like the more interesting thing to me is like yeah, this thing of how diagramming out some sort of like technical system is like the more interesting part than like whether we're all drawing straight lines or not, to be honest.
sure. Yeah. One thing I had a question on is I see you like moving your like flipping it with your hands or something like to do
Oh,
sideways. How
yes.
are you doing that?
Okay, true. That's super important to be able to do. So, with two fingers, you put your two fingers on the screen and then rotate, and it will rotate your canvas.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
nice. So two fingers rotates.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Because that's really important because anytime you're drawing a line, you want to make sure your paper is angled. So when you're drawing on a real piece of paper in the real world, or when I'm doing that, I'm constantly rotating the paper. So if I have to draw a line that I would have to like make my hand at an awkward angle for, I just move the
Right.
paper because yeah, I don't want to have to, end up drawing a wonky sideways line. So I end up drawing the same line over and over and over in the same position, and you're just moving the paper as you draw the line. But once we got the iPad, magical invention, then you can just shift your Procreate paper with your fingers. Yeah, so
Okay.
turning
So
paper, super important to straight line drawing.
yeah, I saw you doing that. And I was like, I need to know how to do that.
Hmm.
Okay. Sweet. So yeah, we've got our DOM. I'm gonna switch over to yours because it's a lot prettier. Okay, so we've got our app.
Right.
It's running a WebWorker.js, event listeners, the WebSockets. Oh, I need to update my lines to go back. Let's see here.
And that goes that too. Um,
So-
oh, okay, so yeah, we've got DOM, API, event listener. Oh, do you want to see another little trick to like this is such a cheat, but it always not a cheat. It's a good principle.
yeah.
So, whenever there's any sort of thing, I'm trying to make it look like it's a solid shape. I make sure I put the line that's at the very bottom of it darker, like I draw a bit of a shadow underneath it, like this. Um, because I mean, really, it is. Anytime one thing touches another, you get what's called like a contact shadow in between them. So that's
Okay.
one easy way to show that something is like solid and has weight and is like a thing is you just make the line that sits underneath it. So if I over here, I'm going to draw like a little, a really quick cube, and I want us to feel like this cube is like real and has like weight to it and exists in the world. I just draw like a heavier shadow at the bottom. So even if you're just drawing a box, you want to make sure that the line at the very bottom of it is darker than all the other lines. It gives you a sense of like gravity.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then it also makes the drawing more clear. It just makes it easier to see the shape and like defines it well.
So how did you make it darker? Did you just go back over and like push on it or
Hmm. So if
okay.
you press harder with your pencil, the magic of the iPad with the pencil is you can go from light to dark lines fairly easily by just adjusting the amount of pressure that you're putting on your pencil.
Okay.
So that's a good thing to practice doing is like push and loosen up or lighten up, so that it works the same way it would if you were using a real pencil on a real piece of paper. You get that nice dark light. You can
Okay.
do really light lines really quick and really thick heavy lines quite easily.
Yeah, that is sweet. And what if you can show us like what are you and you kind of showed me before, but what like I'm looking at the brush library.
Mm-hmm.
What are you clicking on? Like what are you using to draw normally with?
So right now I'm using what I call, I don't know why it's called pencilin. I think I was just being funny with the name when I named it.
Okay.
So it is, I don't think this one might have come with it. I forget. Let me look about, there's no information about when it was made. Honestly, I might have made this one. So it's got
Okay.
like a bit of a pencil looking grain to it. And in terms of it's slightly streamlined, and streamline is really handy actually for drawing smoothly. So streamline is the amount that your brush is going to smooth itself out. So if your streamline's
Okay.
really low, like over here, I can like draw like lots of like really sharp edged lines. And if I put streamline to 100, you can see it sort of smooths out
Hmm.
your lines. It gives you like a little bit. So I like to keep so you can see it get smooth and hard. I like to keep mine around 40-50%, but if you want slightly smoother lines, you can bump it up to 80%.
Wow, that's cool.
And depending on what I'm drawing, I'll move these all around depending on the drawing and what kind of effects I want to be happening.
So are you in the okay, you're in the brush studio, okay. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
try to make that again. So I'm gonna try the. So I'm in the brush studio.
Mhm.
How do you make a new one? You just
Oh,
click
so
on
if you go
new.
back to your main canvas and your brush library, there's a plus sign at the top right
Okay.
hand side.
Okay. Okay. So I'm in there, and what are your
Hmm.
spacing at 17%?
So a spacing I would put down to like four, maybe it's more like 5 or 6% usually.
Okay.
Taper is the thing that determines whether the edges of your line will be thinner than the middle.
Okay.
So this is all quite thick right now. So pressure, is that right? Hmm. No, dynamics, that's maybe where it is. Speed? No. See, there's so many options in here. Sometimes you are just like, oh, quite, okay, this is a lot. Um, Size. Oh, that's it. So if you go into the Apple Pencil option, do you see that one
Okay.
on the
Apple
left hand?
Pencil.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's where you can adjust the size based on how much you push, and the opacity and flow based on how much you push. So um, if you increase the size option, it'll make it fatter the more pressure you put on your Apple Pencil.
I feel like we want it to be really high, right? So that I can really get
Hmm.
different shapes there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then bleed, you've got that. Response. Okay, I think I'm all the same as you and all those other ones. Cool. Taper. What does your taper options look like?
What did I do for that? Taper. I usually don't touch those because they sometimes
Okay.
feel a bit odd to me. Um, well, I guess you would taper it a bit. I don't know. I guess I don't touch those as much. I usually rely on the pressure to thicken and thin it. So this is a basic brush that should be similar to what you just made. It is like I'm putting more and less pressure, and then we're getting that nice size variety.
Okay. Yeah, that looks great. Let me show you what I've got so far
Yeah, how's it
on
going?
mine. So this is give it like 3 seconds here to show up on stream, but I've
Hmm.
got my web worker, got my DOM, got some boxes. I was playing around with the new brush. So this is before I was using I was in inking, so I think that was one of my problems. But now I'm in the drawing with my new brush that basically is following what you just said. But this is like really smooth, and yeah, like you said, it feels just like a normal pencil. Like I can push on
Hmm.
it, and it gets darker.
Yeah. Because I mean that's really what we want to get, right? Is like even though the iPad is magical in so many ways, it's also like it's like a bad approximation of what drawing in real life is like when you have the right tools.
Yeah,
Like I have so much more control if I have a real pencil and a piece of paper. It's like there is no difference, between me and the pencil. Much more smooth. And it's like with digital tools, you have to sort of fight to get what you want all the time. I mean, it gives you wonderful other benefits like instant erase, and I can move things around the page. But I'm waiting for them to get better with the pencil.
well, which one do you have? Because I have the first generation pencil. Do you have the second one or?
I think it's the second one. Yeah.
Okay,
Because
gotcha.
it doesn't have the thing on the end anymore. I always hated that. So yeah, isn't it? You have to like charge it by like sticking it in the end of the
Yeah,
iPad.
it's a pain.
It's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Mhm. But this one charges on the side. But I'll say in terms of like drawing finesse, I didn't notice much difference when I bumped up to this one. It's just easier to
Gotcha.
charge it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other tips and tricks in here? So I'm looking at.
Ooh, what else can we do?
Is there like can we add any like I don't know? How do we add some shadowing or like make it so if you're like this is the design for your egghead course that we're doing on web workers or whatever, like how do you polish it up? Do you add any kind of like After Effects to it? Not After Effects, but like different shadowing of it?
So the thing is, with all the course illustrations I make on Egghead, I don't do them in Procreate. So Procreate's great.
Uh,
That this is more for my illustrated notes and sketches. But
okay,
all of those I make with Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop because those are much more powerhouse tools for specific
gotcha.
like fancy effects.
Okay,
And I'll even like mock things up in Cinema 4D sometimes if I can't be bothered to like calculate the perspective myself. And I'm just like, oh, I'm tired. I'll just like mock up a 3D version and like trace it over in Illustrator. Like that's my
Yeah.
that's like my I'm lazy secret. Um, so yeah, so I'll like make vector shapes in Adobe Illustrator for those, and then take them into Photoshop and hand paint in like lighting effects and rim lighting and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, oh, this might be a little interesting. This will really, so web workers can spawn sub workers themselves.
Ooh, interesting. We just
So
got
you,
some baby spools. Okay, wait.
yes, so you can get, so you could, there's an inception here. So yeah, I'll read it to you here at MDN. It says,
Yeah.
workers may spawn more workers if they wish. So-called sub workers must be hosted within the same origin as the parent page. Let's see. Also URIs. Yeah. So I don't know. How could we throw in
Okay,
some baby web workers if they wanted to create their own?
so it's like are you saying there's like a function inside the webworkers.js file that can
I think inside
spawn
of
off
the
a sub?
work, yeah. So inside of the web worker JS, it
Mm-hmm.
can spawn a new worker, which is referencing basically another file within our app, and then it can talk to itself there as well.
Is the second web worker running on the same thread as the first one?
No,
On a
it's on.
third thread?
Yeah,
How many threads can there be?
I don't know. That's a good
This is
question.
great though. Okay, so this is great because there's gonna be a third thread over here that it can spawn off. Um, so okay, now we're gonna get into some good composition tips. Actually, I've just realized.
Ooh, all right.
Um, okay, so we're gonna say this web worker has just spawned two baby web workers. And in order to both communicate that and have a drawing that looks nice, we do this cool trick called the rule of thirds, um, which shows up in photography and everywhere. And it's just the rule that like two is too few and four is too many, so there's three of everything. So even
Right.
if you look at almost every single egghead course illustration I've made, and there's like if there's small things dotted around it, or there's like buttons, there's always three. In every single one of them, there's one, two, three, and they're arranged in some pattern. So with
Gotcha.
this, I'm gonna draw like a line, like a swoopy line that like gives us a sense of visual continuation. And then I would put, so instead of just putting like, web worker number 2 over here and web worker number 3 like right next to it,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a little composition where, because this one is angled at this, not there. Because this one is angled slightly left, I'm gonna angle this one slightly right and then that one down there slightly left. So I'm sort of planning out the angle these are gonna be at.
Whoa. Okay.
So one web worker is going to go that way because that gives us a nice rhythm to go back and forth with.
Okay.
Um, so web worker 2 and web worker 3, because I'm thinking these are two more threads and these are going to go down. So I'm going to use our magical eraser to make some space for these little new threads. I just like this idea that these are like very fast spinning threads on these, like it's like
Yeah.
sewing meets programming.
Oh, so you're making these cylinders again. Oh yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
guess they're more spools. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, but they're totally just cylinders, right? Like everything
Right.
is a cube or a cylinder, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah. It'll help to kind of zoom in. That's nice. Okay.
Hmm. That's what turning the canvas and zooming it gives you much more
Yes,
control over your ability to be able to draw nicely.
for sure. Okay, let me draw this. Let's see. So, is there a way to like freehand a section and then duplicate it? It's like
Yes. Oh, so the lasso tool. So the little
right.
the one where you can select an area. So I can select that an area like that, and then on the bottom menu bar, there's a copy and paste function. So I just hit that, And what that did was that created a new layer with the exact area that I selected. So
Oh,
now if I look at my layers panel, I have 2 layers going on. The bottom layer has all our normal stuff on it, and this top layer is a second copy of this spool. And so if I now
okay.
click my move tool with that layer selected, I can move this second spool around. So I do this a lot, copy and
Nice.
pasting, so that you can
Yeah.
make doubles of things and do it faster. So I could just not bother to draw that other one and just pop this one down here.
Okay,
Erase
so
this one
first
beneath
thing
it.
you do is you lasso something,
Mm-hmm.
freehand, or you freehand it. You freehand it. Let's see. Where's my lasso? There's my lasso. I'm going to freehand my cylinder, and then copy and paste.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, how do I? Oh, wait, no, you grab the layers.
Okay, go to layers and then hit or the little pointer menu at the top left to be able to
Gotcha.
move it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, beautiful. Yep, I got mine to move. Okay, let's see. Let me erase this one.
Were these called sub workers? What was the name of when it spawns off new workers?
Yes, sub workers.
Sub workers. Okay. So I'm thinking I'm going to move these up a tiny bit, because I want to show that it's like creating new sub workers. So I'm going to move our threads label to the other side here to get it out of the way a bit. And then whenever it's like creation, I just use like generic special effects that are like a little explosion happening.
Yeah.
Um, that indicate that like one just created the other, sort of. So I'm gonna call these
Oh, nice.
sub worker. Or I suppose, wait, sub worker is not the thread itself; it's the spool. So we're gonna remove that label. That's a sub worker. That's a sub worker. Is the parent one? Is it called like a parent worker or main worker? I don't know if they have names.
I don't know if there's a name for it. Just worker, then it just has spawning sub workers after that.
Spawn. That's such a good worker. It just makes me think of like salmon, like spawning,
Yeah.
or like spawning minions. I don't know. um. Okay, so this is our main worker. Just do this.
Yes, that looks great. So I just switched over to mine. So we've got
Mm-hmm.
going on over here.
Okay, it's a bit delayed. That's all right.
Yeah.
When it pops up, I'll see how we're doing. So yeah, we've got DOM, the web worker, event listener. I'll make sure that that's on those labels. Main worker, sub workers. Do you think there's anything else we need on the map, or have we got most of the main people?
I think that's I think that's most of it there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yours just came over. Now I can at least see. Nice. Excellent.
Hey, I'm pretty proud of it actually. I don't think I've
Yeah.
drawn
No,
anything
that's
since
great.
in a long time. So
And just the sketch version is like, I always just see it as a starting point anyway. So you could even take something like this and bring it into an app like Sketch or Figma or Adobe Illustrator or
Right.
Excalibur is a free one.
Yeah.
And draw neater boxes if you really wanted and add it as a diagram to like a course or like a blog post.
Right.
Um, yeah, because like drawing by hand isn't always like the best way to like make a clear drawing other people can read. Like even this like isn't the most clear. But just as a way to, it's usually like the thinking tool, and then you can go make the neater version later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question. If you remember what
Hmm.
mine is, I'm gonna switch over to mine, so it'll be delayed for a
Yeah.
sec. But I want to delete the entire like scribble stuff across the bottom. Is there a better way of doing it than just getting the eraser and like scrubbing it? Can I just like
Hmm.
freehand the whole bottom section and somehow like erase it?
So one option is just to like pick an enormous brush, and but the other
Right.
one is that the scrub. So where you do the selection tool and you select the whole area, and then you do the three fingers and you scrub on the screen, but quite quickly. So three fingers down and scrub really fast around a selected area, and it will clear that whole section.
Oh, okay. So wait, you're saying you freehand it first? You
Hmm. So with the
okay?
selection tool, you like select an area,
Okay.
and then close your selection loop, and then put
Okay.
three fingers on the screen and like quickly scrub.
Let's see.
It work?
I'm probably not listening to your directions, so I I selected it.
Uh-huh.
Is it up on the stream yet? Nope, it's not yet. So I selected it. Oh, never mind, I lost it. Let's see. Oh, there's a clear thing. Let's see.
Oh yeah, you can also actually. I think maybe the clear option shows up. Oh yeah, and there's a clear option. So even my three finger thing is like the shortcut. But if you select anything and then in the bottom menu bar just hit clear, it'll delete it.
Hmm. I'm gonna have to play around with this some more, I think. Hmm. Okay.
It's not working.
I don't think so. No.
Oh, I wonder if you're. Oh, you might. So what might be happening is you might be on a different layer. So opening up your layers panel for a second.
Okay.
Do you have more than one layer going on?
I have from selection, layer one, and background color.
Ah, yes. So click on your top layer, uh, and is it going to be merged down? I forget what it is. Yes, there's a merge down button. Hit merge down. And what that will do is it
Merge.
will combine the layer
Oh.
you're on to the layer beneath it.
Where do you see merge down?
So if you tap on your layer and then
Mm-hmm.
you know how there's a menu that comes up on the side, it's like rename,
Yeah.
select, copy. So hit on merge down. You have to be on the very top layer of
Oh.
your layer stack and
Oh.
hit merge down.
Merge down. Okay, got it.
Hmm. So
Now try
now
it
try your
again.
selection again. Because what might have been happening was you were on a layer that didn't have anything in that section, but the layer beneath it had something in that section.
Hmm. Oh wow. I deleted everything. That's not good.
Oh, tap with two
Just
fingers to undo.
okay.
Tap with two fingers to undo, and you'll get it all back.
Okay. Well,
That's
I think
yeah, as long as you can do the.
maybe I should see you do it. Let me see you do it on yours
Yeah,
really
you want to
quick.
see?
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, we can do a little demo. So we on my.
Yes.
Okay, lovely. So okay, so I've just drawn some things, and they're terrible, and oh no, I've like drawn all over the image. Actually, I should. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I want to delete this like section here. So I'm going to select it with my selection tool, and I'm going to make sure that selection tool is closed. If I go into my layers, I can see I only have one layer, so I know I'm on the right layer. So in my selection tool again, I'm going to hit clear in the bottom right. Oh, that clears the selection. That's why it's doing that. Oh, so you do need to do the triple finger scrub for
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I was like, oh, I never used that clear function. It's because that clears the selection.
So how do you close the selection without like without losing like I have it dotted around, but whenever I like click
Hmm.
out of it, it closes it and I lose the dots. So how do you close
Um,
the menu?
usually, so if I select something, I make sure I close it by, you know how when you're drawing, then there's like a gray dot that shows the endpoint.
Yes.
If you tap on that gray dot, that will close your
Oh,
selection, so
okay.
it completes the loop.
Gotcha. Oh, look, it worked. Okay.
Oh, cool.
I did it.
Yeah, good.
Got it. Cool.
Um, Lovely. Okay, so I was thinking, so what else? Web workers, they. Oh, I want to say, what do we use web workers for? I was trying to think of how to put more context into this of
Yeah.
why, like, why would I want to put a web worker in my website? Like, what's it going
That's a
to do
good
for me?
question. Yeah. So, oh, and by the way, we might lose our Zoom again. We might have to start over
Oh,
in
do
a
another one.
second. Yeah, we'll do another one.
It's
Uh,
coffee break time at the conference.
yes, yes. We're gonna have a coffee break here in a second, everyone. What was I say? Oh, yeah. So something we can use web workers for. A lot of people I've heard a lot of people use web workers for drawing canvases in the background. So yeah, so as far as the web workers go, I mentioned that one thing that Auth0 uses, you can only access web workers from the application that created it. So Auth0 utilizes web workers to um, handle the authenticating and storing of that information. So that's a way of getting it out of your app and like out of the browser memory and somewhere else in a more secure location. Another one is canvas rendering. So when you're working with like WebGL or like a really big video game like canvas type thing, um, I've seen people render or like do the drawing of the canvas in a web worker and then send that back, and then it just gets displayed in the DOM, so it doesn't bog down your DOM. And then I was gonna say, oh, and then like if you just have like big, so if you think of like if you're running some type of like big parsing of JSON, so something that's gonna like take a long time to like parse and evaluate, you can send it all to a web worker and it'll do your parsing. Or if you have a big algorithm type thing that you're doing, all that heavy work can be done in a web worker, and then when it's done, it'll just be sent back over to your app.
Lovely. Yeah, it does sound like they could work as. Oh, wait, I'm gonna. Oh, I need to do the
Oh,
share host thing,
yes.
all the Zoom permissions. Oh, got it going on. Lovely. So when it's sharing, like you said, it's storing like secure credentials with Auth. Oh, is it like so it's local and no one else can access it?
Yeah. You know what? Let me find the official docs. Inside of Auth0. So I will say that I've only been with Auth0 for 4 weeks now, so I'm still kind of learning everything about how it works. But let me read it to you what it's doing. Let's see. I did have
Interesting.
it
I just
up.
don't think of like like the DOM running on like a pass, like like the browser running on my computer. I just don't think of that as like dangerous public space. But is it that a potential attacker has more access to that DOM than they would to a form of local storage that's running in a web worker?
Yeah, well, if you think about like Chrome extensions, or if you're running npm packages, like you have your app has third-party code that's running in on it,
Mm,
and that code is running in your browser at the time. So if you're storing, secret things, and you keep that in your the DOM or the browser like local storage, then it's easily able to just be retrieved from. So if you send it in a web worker, nothing else has access to that other than the thing that created it. In our case, it would be like the
interesting.
Auth0 thing. And yeah, let me read you what it says here. So Auth0 recommends storing tokens in browser memory as the most secure option. Using web workers to handle the transmission and storage of tokens is the best way to protect the tokens, as web workers run in a separate global scope than the rest of the app.
Ah,
Yeah.
different global scope. I'm drawing a little like boundary line between them that somehow like
Yeah.
so it's a different global scope. Interesting. Well, I mean, not to put too many like boxes inside of boxes, but then it's like this whole thing is like one scope over here.
Right.
Oh, and now we're gonna do the edit shape to make it neater than I made it. Um, and then the DOM has like its own scope going on over here. Oh, so messy, but so fixable. Um, it's called One of them is called global scope. Is it they have two global scopes? Was that the wording?
Yeah,
Was
so
the
they have like the browser the your app has its own global scope, and then web workers have their own scope.
Oh, okay. Web worker scope and browser scope.
Yeah, I'm getting good at this straight line thing now. Yeah, that's now
Oh,
that I kind
cool.
of know the trick, I can like
Yeah.
move it and keep my lines straight.
Is there a name for the thread that the DOM runs on other than just like main thread? I don't
I
know.
think it's just the main thread.
It's the main thread. That's a good name
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
The main thread. How do I forget? I mean, this is in all the tutorials. How are they different to service workers? What does a service worker do in this context?
Yeah, so they're both workers. And a worker is a so those are a worker is like the global term for like a file or a different thread. So they're
Okay.
siblings. They're very similar to each other. They both have a messaging system. They both talk to each other from a different thread. Service workers, though, they're used for more intercepting requests, caching purposes. They get talked about a lot because they're used in progressive web apps. So like offline working. Web workers again as a worker means it runs a different thread, but its job is more of like the muscle, like it does heavy computations that might bring down the main thread. But a
Ah.
worker is so they're siblings that just have different jobs.
Ooh, so that makes me want to. So this is where I'm going to use the move tool to do a little bit of like my. This is why I work on 5,000 pixels, so I could just like scale up and down this without losing quality really quick. So if I have my move tool selected, I'm just going to pinch, and I'm like making it smaller just with like that pinch and make smaller move,
Right.
so that I'm thinking it might be informative for this to this little visual. If I make another scope that is the service worker on the left hand side if the web worker is on the right. Um, because I assume, does a service worker have its own scope as well?
Yeah. So like each thread, each worker has its own scope.
Lovely. Okay, that works perfectly because then this over here is the service worker scope. I mean, I'm trying to think of ways to show that web workers are like the muscle bit of this thing, but that would be
Right.
like in another. Hmm. But yeah, okay, so service workers are more for speed and caching, you said?
Yeah. They're for catching offline requests. So if you're instead of getting the dinosaur app where you jump over the cactuses, uh, you can actually catch that before you get any errors and then return data to your app. So the app doesn't know that it's offline. It's getting a request, but the service worker kind of intercepting that.
Okay, that's great. I'm gonna draw one of our little thread spools, and then I'm gonna think about some way to show that. Uh,
So whenever I do my fingers to like zoom out,
mhm.
um, it seems like you like so I did the same amount of pixels, but like, am I just drawing like massively big? Maybe that was my problem as I started too big, but now I don't like have any more space. Like even if I zoom out,
Oh yeah, so what you want to do there is because your screen is enormous, right? You don't need like who knows how big each of these spools are. They're like 2,000 pixel spools.
yeah,
So if you select your move tool, which is in the left hand top menu, that pointer,
okay.
and then use the native like Mac, zooming functionality to just like grab and then pinch,
Oh,
and it'll make your
nice.
whole image smaller, and you can just make infinitely more space. Like you can just make it like this little sketch in the middle, and then we could like add all sorts of other things all around the edge. Um,
Yes,
yeah,
perfect.
so
Looks
that's
like a charm.
Yeah, I tend to scale up and down my drawings as needed to make more space. And because it's still at the sketch stage, I never worry too much about quality. Like it's all just figuring out the
Right.
ideas first. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. Perfect. I think the whole like making straight lines thing is the biggest takeaway for me today.
Oh, good. That's one of the important bits. And then I'm trying to see, I'm thinking through how to show that the service worker like caches web pages. So I'm sketching out a little thing of it, like saving a web page for later. Hmm. Let me move the spool up higher for this. Smaller. I hope everyone's enjoying the quiet drawing time. I like to imagine the whole chat
Yeah.
just has all their iPads out and they're all just like practicing straight lines and like rotating the canvas. I really hope that's happening.
Yeah, no, this is sweet. Like I've wanted some people like I can't think of her name, but some people will use like draw stuff for their if they're teaching at conferences or something like they'll kind of draw their slides. I'm sure you do that as well, but I don't know that's something that I would like to do as well. Sometimes maybe
Yeah,
throw in like a my
I
own
think
little
Lynn,
illustration. Oh, Lynn,
I
yes,
think
from Mozilla.
Lynn Clark, who, yeah, so she explains like, what does she explain? It begins with W. Why am I blanking on this? It's the thing that
WebAssembly.
breaks. Yes, exactly. The thing that's constantly broken. She explains WebAssembly
Yeah.
in really wonderful cartoons, as does Julia Evans, makes these incredible zines. Like, if you haven't seen her zines, go look at, is it called Wizard Zines? Um, but yeah, it's just like wonderful. And she's a great example of like, it's just stake figures and boxes, but like explains things really well. She's great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say the service workers, cache websites for offline, say offline access, offline viewing,
Uh, both. Yeah.
offline access. All right. Mm. Oh, nice. I'm like checking in on yours.
Yeah, every now and then I'm trying to switch between so we can see.
Yeah, yeah. This service, do you just call usually call it like serviceworker.js? I've never written one of those files.
Yeah, the Create React app, it's service worker.js, service dash worker.js. But yeah, I
That
think,
sounds like a good file name.
yeah. Like your paper has like the corner folded up. That's beautiful.
That's how, yeah. Whenever I have to draw a file, I think it's because that's what I don't know where those icons would have come from, but you know, like that old school file icon is like a little piece
Yeah.
of paper with like a little, yeah, like that.
Yep.
So whenever I draw files, it's always got like one corner up, like some strange legacy
Yeah.
icon. It also does just make it feel like it's a piece of paper that like moves and flies in space.
Right.
Worker.js. So then I'm going to get rid of our old web worker over here. Oop. And then these guys.
Ooh, and now this paper's kind of like laying down in the sun.
Uh, well, the worker.js one.
Yeah,
It's
the
just
worker.js
reclining.
one.
It's a chill one. Um, this is good. I'm like rearranging this little diagram here to be a bit more compact. Oh, it said there's an event listener. So is the event listener in between the DOM and your web worker?
The event listener is in your code, so it's in your app.
Mm-hmm.
The app has
And
the
and
yeah.
it's listening for DOM events and going back and forth.
It's not listening for DOM; it's listening for the worker to publish a message.
Oh, okay.
So the
Wonderful.
worker
So,
sends
okay.
a message, and you have code that's listening for it to talk to each other, and it goes both ways. The workers has an event listener, and so does the code.
Okay, great. So that is the communication channel.
Where did you move your web worker.js file? Oh, you moved it up to the top. Got it.
Mm-hmm. Because yeah,
Okay,
before it was like that weird box, and instead I'm thinking that these files are more sort of like in between the scopes and the DOM scope. Like they're like sort of
gotcha.
the intermediaries.
I forgot how to move something again. So I select it, and then
Mm-hmm.
how do I move it after you? Oh, the
Oh,
pointer. That's
so
right, the pointer.
yeah. So if you select something and then click your pointer, you can move your
That's right.
selection around.
Nice. I'm gonna flip it so I look all
Oh
cool.
yeah, let's go on you. I'm still trying to figure out how to put. It's like I've got a bit in the service worker scope, right, of like caching the websites, and I'm trying to think of what to put on the web workers on the end of their threads that show that they run heavy duty
Yeah.
computations. So, oh, so this would be good actually because we have sub workers. We have multiple use cases we can show. So they run. We said Canvas, like large scale data viz Canvas calculations might be one.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. We're going to draw some of that in. So I'm going to move our threads label. And then another one was secure authentication.
Yeah.
And okay, so first we're going to do some crazy complex WebGL 3G. I've never used that stuff. I don't even know how it works. Let's say um, Is there a word like high processing cost? No. What am I trying to say? High
Um,
computational cost?
computation costs, yeah.
Yeah, high computation. High computation cost processes.
Ooh, I love that. I'm just now catching up to your circle polka dotted thing.
This is some WebGL canvas. I don't know what it is. I was just trying to draw something that would have lots and lots of tiny visual data points that maybe need to all like animate at once.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff you see on, do you know the site awards, AWWARDS awards?
Mm-mm.
It's essentially just like ridiculous like WebGL, Canvas, JavaScript, like crazy experiments that like creative agencies do, or
Okay.
people just trying to like show off with web skills. I mean, they have incredible visualization and animation skills on that site. It's the sort of thing where like Nike will just hire some creative agency to make them the world's most interactive, flashy, 3D animation in the browser. But
Right.
it's a cool site to check out because it shows you the limits of what a web browser can handle.
Yeah.
um, okay, so we've got WebGL canvas rendering is one good example. We've got, let's rearrange these a bit. Secure authentication.
So this one is the storing. Yeah. So
Storing
it's storing. Oh, so it handles the transmission of storage tokens. So yeah, I think it's more of like a storage for your auth tokens.
auth tokens. Again, a token is just like a not like a cryptographic string. Is that the correct assumption?
Yeah, it's like a yeah. I'm so I don't want to say anything wrong, but yeah, it basically is like it defines like tokens that are passed between like an app and your app, and then in order to there's like some signaturing, some secure stuff behind it. But yeah, the token
So
is
it's a
stored there.
password. Would that be a good
Um,
analogy?
Not really. It's mainly like
Okay.
your password succeeded, and so now here's the proof that it succeeded, and they only live for a certain amount of time.
Ooh, interesting. Disappearing key.
Yeah,
uh, until I have a better visual, I'm gonna draw a key, which is honestly my lazy version of anything to do with security is like lock and key.
well, I think that works.
And I always get stuck between like, okay, this is some, boring trope metaphor that like everyone will know what it's signifying, but we've all done it 1,000 times and we're all very sick of it. So I'm always
Right.
caught between that and trying to like reinvent the wheel. And sometimes you don't need to, but sometimes it's like, ah, I always draw lock and keys.
Oh yeah, your key is awesome.
A little key in there, and then so I'm gonna say secure authentication tokens. Is that a good label?
Yeah. Cool.
Is there a third use for it? We don't have to put one in. The last one I can just have it
Um.
handle the thread.
Yeah, I think we can just have it in there.
That's fine. Okay, cool. I mean, got a little bit of a map going on here.
Oh yeah, I think it looks good though.
Nice. I'm just seeing yours and catching up.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I have some cleaning up to do, I think. But other than that, I think it might look. I'm pretty happy how it turned out.
Good. I'm glad, like, this is like a great little procreate lesson too.
Yeah. Well, cool. Does anybody have any questions for Maggie? Anybody want to ask some Procreate tips or tricks, or maybe anything about some of the designs or stuff she's talked about in the past?
Don't ask me about authentication in web workers. I won't be good for that.
Yeah. Any questions about illustrations or anything like that?
And if you don't have any now, on Thursday on Twitter, I'm doing an egghead chat. So
Mm.
give them a
Yes,
long
check that out.
questions.
Yeah, I was able to do one of those. Yeah, I did the I
Oh,
tried to
cool.
respond with videos whenever I did
Oh,
them.
nice. I hadn't seen
Took,
that yet. I'll go watch those and get tips.
yeah, it took a little bit of time because you have to record yourself and then export it and upload them to Twitter, which takes a little bit. But I think it's a lot more personable and stuff. I liked it.
Nice.
But yeah,
Um,
so I wonder, can we? Maybe I'll ask you for this in like an image or something. Are you able to export
mhm.
this somehow?
Yeah. Do you want to learn a little exporting trick?
Yeah, let's export
Well,
this.
trick. I mean, trick is just like how to export it. So if you click on your little like spanner shaped tool in the top left hand corner.
Well, first you need to sign the bottom of it, like an
Oh
artist.
yeah, so
So
you got to put your
let's
your name
let's
on it.
put some signature here.
Okay, down at the bottom here. Somehow now feel some compulsion to date it, as if that's feels like some like artist like signature. April 28th, 2020. My personal diary about web workers.
Yeah. Okay, so I got mine.
Got it.
Cool.
So now if you go to your little spanner in the top left hand corner,
Okay.
and then there's a share tab, and you can export it as like a Procreate file, which is not that useful. A
Hmm.
Photoshop file, which I'll sometimes use if I'm going to do extra work on it, or I usually would just export it as a PNG. That's like
Okay.
nice, handy version. And then you can airdrop it to your or like machine. So I usually just airdrop it to my desktop, and then you can crop it, upload it to Twitter, put it on a blog, put it on an article.
Nice.
Sometimes your device takes a long time, it decides not to. Airdrop is finicky. There we go. Export successful.
Cool. Yeah, I've got mine. Got my PNG. It's beautiful.
Um,
I will
Good.
be
Make sure
putting it on.
we should tweet these after.
Yes. Yes, I've got mine.
Okay. Good. Put it on the thread and I'll add on to it.
Okay.
Nice.
Sweet. Well, yeah. Well, if there's any questions, thanks Maggie for your time.
Thanks so
Yeah.
much for hosting this. This is fun. I'm really glad I learned about web workers. I genuinely like Googled them last week and then by this week couldn't remember what they did anymore. But now I'm not going to forget because we've drawn the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. It's a fun little thing. I definitely I think on my bucket list is to get better at drawing and like doing some type of illustration for stuff because I have stuff that I want to
Cool.
do for my own stuff in the future and I'd love to be able to throw in some artwork. So, but yeah, thanks
Excellent.
everyone for coming today. We'll post
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
the after effects of our drawings here. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.